The slogan anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. Let's break it down. Anti-racist means you're against racism. There's no qualifications there. They're not saying racism against any particular race. It's just being against racism, period. Code word. Code word means that it is equal to. Okay. Code word means that it's just another word for. And anti-white. That's racism. Anti-white means you're racist against white people. So the slogan means if you're against racism, then you are a racist. It is self-contradictory, and it makes no sense. If you ask somebody, all you have to do is just ask anyone who parrots this slogan, are you against racism, or do you support racism against white people, yes or no? They cannot answer that question. There's no right answer for them. And the reason is very simple. Because they're issuing a self-contradictory statement. And either way they answer the question, they're contradicting themselves again. And it makes it more obvious, if it wasn't already obvious before. White genocide. Supposedly there's a giant white genocide going on, even though none of us can figure out where it is or how it's happening. Well, the racists who are putting this forward, they don't really have a narrative attached to this. They're not really explaining exactly how it happens. They're just throwing out a lot of terms and definitions. They'll throw out the definition of the genocide according to the UN. They'll throw out terms like blending, like forced integration, like Africa for the Africans. But they cannot say exactly how some governmental agency is forcing white people to marry black people and why exactly they would want to do that and how that equals exterminating white people even. Because even if a white person marries a black person, even if they're ordered by the government to do so and they have a mixed race baby, that doesn't mean that white people have disappeared. It just means that they have changed. Now another slogan is Africa for the Africans, Asia for the Asians, white countries for everyone. Now, let's put aside the fact that they're claiming that countries where white people live are white countries. The very fact that they say Africa for the Africans and Asia for the Asians is a straw man. Nobody has ever said that except them. Nobody is telling them you can't go live in Africa. Nobody has ever told them you can't go live in Asia. They're making it up out of thin air. Now, it is true that there's not hordes of people clamoring to immigrate to poor third world countries from rich first world countries where the majorities are white. It is true that there's not people trying to immigrate into Africa or Asia. But if people did want to immigrate into Africa or Asia, there wouldn't be much of a problem doing so. They could immigrate into those countries if they really wanted to. And they might face some difficulties just like immigrants here face. They might have a hard time getting citizenship. They might be discriminated against by people just like those people here who are saying Africa for the Africans. They want to get rid of anybody of African descent. That's what they're saying. Send them back to Africa. Send the Asians back to Asia. And we'll stay here. And, golly gee, it just so happens that we got the best end of that deal, didn't it? We happened to get the rich country, and they just so happened to get the poor country. But, hey, that's just the way it works. Now let's talk about white countries for a second. White countries are mostly countries with native populations that were exterminated. Golly gee, would you look at that? White countries happen to be countries where large portions of the population are not white, at least in America and Australia and other places, even Canada. White countries like America would not be what they are if they were white countries. If America was just a whole bunch of white people and nothing else, almost everything that is recognizable about America would not exist. There wouldn't be, all of the different kinds of food that we have. There wouldn't be all the music. There wouldn't be all the different innovations in sports, for instance. There wouldn't be all the literature that we have. We would be immeasurably poorer, and we never would have had the wealth that came from the forced labor of the slaves. I mean, let's get real about this. The slaves built this country, and they provided us with a lot of wealth, and that wealth was stolen from them. And we wouldn't have that. We wouldn't have their cultural input. We wouldn't have their biological input. We would be very much different, very much poorer, probably not the great nation that we are today if we were a white country. So to recap, anti-racist is a code word for anti-white, is a self-contradictory statement which cannot be defended. And if you want to defend it, then you must first answer the question, are you a supporter of racism against white people? Yes or no? If you answer that question, then you will be destroyed, logically. There's no way that you can defend that statement. There's no way that you can answer that question and still maintain some shred of respectability. After you answer that question, you simply cannot be taken seriously, no matter what answer you give, unless you come out against that statement, because it's self-contradictory. Now, the white genocide is a myth based on nothing. There is no narrative put forth to support it. Just, they just throw out a lot of terms and try to confuse you. They hope that you will just believe what they say if they throw out enough words. But they cannot explain to you in simple terms how this genocide is occurring, because there is no such thing. If there was a genocide going on according to the UN definition of genocide, there'd have to be some world agency somewhere or some government agency forcing people to screw people of a different color to have babies in order to, blend white people out of existence and black people out of existence and Latinos out of existence. So it would be a genocide against everybody. But there's nobody making such plans. There's no white governments anywhere, or mostly white governments anywhere, that want to exterminate themselves. That just doesn't make any sense. And how you could believe that a government agency has got plans to, force immigrants into these European or mostly white countries, that doesn't make any sense either. Why would they, they don't have to advertise in Mexico to get poor farmers to come here. They don't have to try and pull immigrants in. The immigrants come because they need the opportunities that they can access here. They come because they're poor and they don't know any other way to feed their families. That's why they come. And nobody has to encourage them to do that. Now, Asia for the Asians and Africa for the Africans is just bullshit. It's just a fact that people do not want to move to Africa right now. And if they did, nobody would stop them. There's nobody who's against racism that would say, you white person, stay in your white country. We don't believe in white countries. In the first place, we believe in just countries. We believe anybody can live anywhere. So who's going to stop you from going to Africa? Go. You might learn something.